Well, well, okay, fair enough. I'll just say fair enough. I do think that the point is that it's not always the case that applying a turning force causes the object to turn. There are
In the
lots of
case of winds,
situations in
yes.
which that's
In the
not
case
true.
of winds, yes, but we're talking about the Coriolis effect, and in that case, it
Yep,
is true.
fair
Well,
enough.
I
That
like
may
So if
be right.
we so if
I
we
like
have to
Bacon's.
if I had to fly from the North Pole to the equator, obviously I would want to figure out where the airport was going to be so I don't have to turn or apply any turning forces at all. That'd be the shortest path. We're going to say hypothetically there's no winds.
Well, I don't know if Bacon's simulation is involving any turning. I think it is because the way I'm looking at it, just intuitively, and John could, kind of back me up on this as well. He's taking off eastward because we have a lot of tangential velocity that tangential momentum we want to retain, and we go eastward actually of our target until it gets up to the north area where the tangential velocities are very, very low. Then it starts going east, utilizing all that buildup of tangential velocity to kind of accelerate and go toward the target. But the difference between going straight line, like the guy on the surface is going north on a train track, let's say, if they could all go the same airspeed, I guess, or net velocity, then they end up getting there at the exact same time almost from what the simulation shows. And I'm still trying to digest that. But I mean, do you see what I'm saying with that, John? Is that something that's it's very interesting?
I think it is getting at one part of Bacon's simulation that I don't think I fully internalize, right? That radical curvature in the one path, I think may not be quite what it appears to be if you think about it properly. And that's why I need to really do this on my own. I'm gonna try to repeat
Right.
Bacon's stuff
Well, it
myself.
looks like
Also,
it stops going
also,
northward and it's going more eastward because it had built up that tangential velocity from the departure momentum that it's retaining, and that's why it may look like it's actually making a turn, but it's really not. It's just not going north as fast as it's going east. There's a lot of. Leave it to Bacon to bring this stuff up, man. The mind bender
Well,
simulation.
I really do. I congratulate him because at the very least,
Yo,
it's clear he's thought about the same thing I just thought about today for the first
thanks.
time, to
okay,
put
but
that
have
together.
I
okay,
need
but
to know
have Bacon
velocity,
redo it.
so
Okay, but have Bacon redo it with the North Pole equator scenario. It'll be blatantly obvious which one's the shorter path because one of them, the guy's going to have to turn, and the other one, the guy's going to not turn. We know that if you don't turn, that's the shortest path.
Okay, give me 5 minutes.
can we build in velocities too on that?
Like you're
No,
anyone going against me is saying yes, turning is the shorter path. It's crazy.
Well, Bacon did the simulation. He's got something following the Great Circle route directly to that airport, and when it doesn't, they both end up at the same time. But the question is why? I think what happens is effectively when you follow the Great Circle route and do the turning forces, you are equivalently there's equivalence there. That's why you end up at the same destination at the same time because there is an equivalence factor. It's like you are making this deviation and coming in from the west when actually you don't have to do that. And that's
It's
what I'm
not the same,
wrestling
Zanick.
with my mind
Somebody
right now.
took a longer path, dude. Somebody took a longer path in the North Pole to equator scenario, and
Mhm.
one guy turned the plane, one guy didn't turn the plane. Like I don't know how this is even debatable.
Well, no, I mean you're that's a great insight. I agree with you. I think one takes a longer path, but is traveling a higher airspeed, has a higher tangential velocity for for part of that path, which in the end creates the same exact arrival time, even though one took a different path across the surface. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, but so you're saying now you agree with me that the guy who doesn't turn takes the shorter path.
I think they're both the same path. It looks like the simulation
They're
shows that they're
not the
both the
same
same path.
path. They're definitely not
No,
the
no,
same
no,
path.
you're right. Yeah, one's longer
okay,
path than the
I did with the North Pole. I did with the North Pole.
yeah. Jeremy, you're
The
right. One
simulation's
is
right.
taking a longer path, physically longer path.
Yeah, the guy who turns. The guy who turns.
Yeah,
We know
but the
how
guy
we
that but
know
they both
if
get there
you
at the
want to
same
go and
time.
if you
So
want to
does it
take the
matter?
shortest path, you don't turn.
Yeah, but they both get there at the same time. Is that you agree with that,
This
right?
isn't a time thing. This is a shortest path thing.
Well, then you're right. Yes, because velocities
Okay, I'm right.
involve
Thank you.
yes, velocities involve not only the change of position with respect to time, but also involve directions. So you got a magnitude as well as a direction, a factor here. So yes,
It's wild that all this came from John talking about how INS and airplanes comports with distances that only
Yeah.
on one.
Right.
No, it's good, and I mean, I this is what often happens to me. I do learn things in here as much as sometimes I find it frustrating. I've learned a lot about Aries failure. I have a presentation to make on Aries failure sometime because I really understand that now in a way I didn't before. And Alan over there from Ether Cosmology booted me out of the room basically for my attitude on that one.
I'd like to hear that.
Well,
Yeah, I gotta say two things. Well, first, the first one, Jeremy, I got your simulation. So now we got the same scenario, but we started North Pole and we head towards the equator, right? If you guys want to take a look at that, I have it ready to go.
Sure. So one guy has to turn the plane, another guy doesn't. Which one takes the shortest path? The guy who turns or the guy who doesn't?
You tell me. So I got the blue airplane and the red airplane. The red airplane just follows the grid circle route, so he does that. The blue plane also follows the grid circle route, but it does that on the inertial plane, like that. So they start the same point, they land on the same point. But if you look from the reference frame on the surface, the blue plane, which follows where the airplane is going to be, has to make this path where he has to speed up a lot when he gets to this region. That's definitely not the greatest path or the most fuel saving path because it has to speed up a lot. Like if you look at the distance between the dots here, it's much greater than the red one. So he has
So your argument is that the guy who turns takes the shortest path.
the guy who takes the grid circle route in the non-inertial frame is the one that saves more fuel.
Can we see that in the rotating?
The guy who
See that
we're
rotating
not
again?
talking about fuel. Hold on one second. We're not talking about fuel or time. We're talking about which path is the shortest. Are you saying that the guy who turns? Are you saying the guy who turns takes the shorter path and the guy who just doesn't turn and goes straight?
No, path length is frame dependent.
Remember,
I realize that, but are you saying forget the frame? Hold on, Zanick. Forget the frames. Who flies the shorter path? The guy who turns the plane or the guy who doesn't turn the plane?
Well, if path length is frame dependent, then I can't tell you which one is the shortest if I don't know the length because that depends on the frame. So your question depends on the frame.
What do you mean you didn't know anything about frames? Hold on, Zanick. You didn't know anything about frames. And we wanted to go from A to B on Earth, North Pole to the equator. Would you want to take a path where the plane you don't have to turn the plane?
Well, if I don't know anything about frames, I would assume Earth is stationary, so we'll just fly straight to the target.
And then what if I found a way, and then I found a way where I didn't have to turn the plane? Would I have flown a shorter path?
Depends on the path. The one
Bacon,
that
what
It's
did
the
he
path
say
where I
for
don't turn. It's the path where I don't turn at all, and you did turn.
that's the one
How-
I'm already following because I don't know anything about frames, so I'm just following a grid circle route. So I'm not turning.
Bacon, would it be fair to say? Would it be fair to say that the trajectory from north to the equator would be on, let's say it's a railroad, let's say it's all along the surface. Would it be fair to say that the path on the railroad track is going to be experiencing major forces along the tracks on the way down to keep it on that straight line path, whereas your curved path would be a free falling path with no force acting on? Is that what you're saying?
Only if we have no atmosphere, right? If we have no atmosphere,
that's my
then
point.
Jeremy's suggestion is right on point. However,
even if we have an atmosphere, if we have something atmosphere, doesn't matter. We're talking about a train track going from north to south, the red dot. The blue dot, we want to have also a train track, but I'm making this train track in such a way that it's going to neutralize the Coriolis force the entire way. And I think that's the breakthrough I've just made mentally on what you've done here. One will have a Coriolis force that's acting on the tracks. It's all along the surface, and the blue one has no forces. It's just following the Coriolis path.
Well,
both ends at the same time.
If it follows the Coriolis path,
that is a manifestation of the Coriolis force, the blue path. That neutralizes the force, gives you an equivalence path. I think, John, this is where I'm making a breakthrough here. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the red line includes the forces. You actually need the forces there to do that straight line. If you didn't have any forces, the blue path would be, and they both are the same.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right in the sense that the red. So if you look at it when the Earth is rotating, right, the red thing starts off just going south, but ends up going massively east. Right. The blue one just simply comes south. I think they are the same path, seen in different reference frames.
Thank you, Bacon. You've just reinstated our confidence and our knowledge of this topic in a very, very cool way. Thank you for that. It was really actually very interesting.
Hang on. The path of the blue dot is taking, even though that has no Coriolis force because it's just taking a great circle route in the inertial frame. Its velocity compared to its velocity compared to the velocity of the air at where it is huge compared to the red one. So if you don't care about the wind, of course, the blue one is the best path. There's no wind, you just take a straight line on the inertial frame. So you have no forces, that's fine. But if you're flying, or if air is an issue for whatever reason, then you don't want to take that path either, because the difference in velocity between the blue dot and the air that the blue dot is in is much more huge
Yeah, I
than the
see
red.
that. I see that.
Right. So now we inject air into it. Suddenly, air becomes an aiding or detracting factor depending
shit.
where what direction you're
Getting
traveling.
a phone call.
Because obviously, you're going from an area of
No,
less
hold on. I was
tension.
on mute. I was trying to talk on mute. I got to unmute twice now. There's only two paths, the inertial and the non-inertial. If you don't turn, you're going in a straight line in the inertial path. That's you not turning. That's the shortest path, is when you don't turn. It's really that simple.
So which of these is the one that's not turning?
The great circle route in the inertial path, not on the
So
ground.
is it the blue
not
or the
along
red
blue
one?
line.
Is the blue or the red one?
I don't know what he's got, how he's got it color coded, but the shortest path is when you don't turn. That leads you to take a great circle route in the inertial path. It would look like you're turning on the ground.
Well, but right. So that sounds like the blue one. And as he says, the problem with the blue one are the winds. I think, isn't that right, Bacon?
We're saying, we're doing this hypothetically. There are no winds.
Oh, well,
There's
there
no
have to
winds.
be
Just go
winds. I
back.
mean, if you're not going to allow, I mean, if you, no, what I mean is with the winds due to the fact that the atmosphere rotates with the Earth.
Yeah, that's no wind. It's not
That's
considered wind.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but the point is that his blue line does involve traveling through massive winds, having to make corrections that it can't make.
Oh, there are no winds. There's no wind in this scenario. There's zero wind.
In that path there
Well,
is. Oh,
there
There's
is
zero
if you're on
wind.
the
No,
blue
there's
line.
no wind. There's no wind, guys.
No, there's no wind relative to the Earth. But the point is, on his blue one is moving rapidly to the east and west relative to the Earth, so fast that the plane couldn't do it. The plane wouldn't
exactly.
be able to do that.
Amen. So I put those dots. Those dots, they are
Awesome. That's another
separated.
great insight. Good
Just
job.
a second. Okay. Anyway, so those points, they're equally separated time-wise, which means that the greater the gap between them, the faster the dots move. So you can see that the path of the red dot is a very dense path, so it doesn't fly that fast. But the path of the blue dot, it has to travel much faster to keep a inertial trajectory. So as soon as you have the atmosphere, that's for sure not the best route. I think the perfect route would be just slightly off the path of the red dot, which I think is what you said before. All I was disagreeing with is that the inertial path is huge. The inertial path is huge. It's not the one you want to take.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I keep getting wagged back and forth here, but this is really good work, Bacon.
Thanks.
Very, very interesting. Good job.
Thanks. Sorry, Jordan.
All right. Now I'm kind of interested to hear what the hell Bacon's actually talking about.
Yeah, and I am too. I'm still going to have to digest it. I'm going to have to actually kind of redo the work that Bacon did there, but he's it's definitely opening my eyes, and I just haven't quite figured out what I'm looking at yet.
I mean, I got no problem being wrong here. In fact, the times that I was wrong, it was actually quite cool because I learned some pretty cool stuff. Figuring out what was wrong, but I mean, I got no problem being wrong here. And in fact, the times that I was wrong, it was actually quite cool because I learned some pretty cool stuff. I mean, I got no problem being wrong here. And in fact, the times that I was wrong, it was actually quite cool because I learned some pretty cool stuff.